everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Emma Anglin and we have been reading through my book, Dragon's Wish. In our last chapter, chapter 15, Galloway went into the woods and found that his dragon trap had been tripped, but there was no dragon to be found. And with that, we'll get into chapter 16. The only thing keeping the gloom at bay in Sevrin's house was a lamp of tallow with a wick stuck in it. Without it, the house would have been as dark inside as it was outside. Sevrin hunched over his plate of bread and cheese and munched his food in silence. His father and the shepherds had yet to return, but the young shepherds who had been left behind praised Sevrin for the return of the lamb, the 2 other sheep he had found on the way home, and the sheep he had rescued from the dragon trap. Not that he told them how the sheep came to be rescued. He couldn't imagine what a mob of shepherds would do to him if they discovered he had freed the same creature which had wreaked havoc on their livelihood. At the very least, they'd beat him to a bloody pulp, then thrust what was left of him into a madhouse. Only an insane man would save a dragon. Yet, Sevrin took a bite of his food as he mulled the experience over. The dragon didn't seem hostile. It was a beast frightened for its life. It was even grateful, offering Sevrin a wish. He chuckled to himself. The princess as his bride. What an insane fantasy. Maybe he did belong in a madhouse for holding on to such a dream. No, if the dragon truly intended to repay him for saving it, Sevrin would have to ask for something more practical, like grain to replenish their lost harvest. Someone is deep in thought tonight. Mariella leaned forward as she ate her supper. What's on your mind, Sevrin? It's nothing, Mum, Sevrin said, rousing himself back to reality. Just thinking about what happened this morning. You did have quite the exciting day. Mariella leaned her cheek on her hand. Imagine, a dragon has settled in our lands. I never thought it would happen. Did you see any sign of him out there? Sevrin fell silent, his head nodding slightly. The dragon's offer filled his mind. It really has settled in among us. Mariella turned her gaze out of the window. I hope the knights don't kill him. They are magnificent creatures. Mum, can I ask you something? You can ask me anything, darling. If you could have a wish, anything you wanted, no matter what it was, what would you wish for? A difficult question. I have everything I want. Mariella trailed off as her gaze turned to the ceiling. Her smile faded. I know what I'd want. I'd wish to see my very best friend again. She let her eyes drop to the table. I had to leave her behind a long time ago. I want to know she's safe. Sevrin let his eyes drop also. He hadn't meant to make his mother sad. After a moment, her smile returned. What about you, Sevrin? What would you wish for? Sevrin felt his cheeks flare. Promise you won't laugh? I'd never laugh at your wishes, Sevrin. Sevrin averted his eyes, glad the dim light obscured her view of his reddening face. I'd want a chance to marry the girl I fancy. Sevrin! Mariella's face lit up. Don't tell me a young lady has caught your eye. Sevrin sort of shrugged and nodded at the same time. You should have said something. Who is she? Oh, Sevrin scratched his cheek. A girl I've seen every once in a while. She's wonderful though, Mum. Mariella smiled in her knowing way. There's no reason why your wish shouldn't come true. I shall have your father arrange it so you can court her. I can't court her. Why not? I'm a farmer and she's in a much higher class than we are. Sevrin sighed. We don't have the means. You don't need money or social standing to court someone, Sevrin. Your father caught me, and he was poorer then than we are now. You're both farmers, Mum. Sevrin stood to clear his plate. There's a big difference between courting her and courting you. I don't think there is. The 2 fell into silence for a moment before Sevrin glanced over his shoulder at her. How did father court you, Mum? What made you choose him? His kindness. Mariella rested her cheek on her hands. When I was young, I was traveling the countryside when winter snuck up on me. You know I have weak blood. I fell ill in the woods. I couldn't move and well-nigh froze to death. Your father found me and took me into his home, this very same house. She gestured at the cottage. He worked himself to the bone, keeping up with all the farm work while nursing me back to health. I'll never forget how he used to bundle himself up and venture out into a raging blizzard, braving the cold to get my medicine from Master Knighton, all the while putting himself deeply in debt in the process. He was a perfect gentleman the entire time. Even when I was able to help around the house, he never once tried to take advantage of me. When spring came, I realized if I left, he'd have no one to take care of him. No mother, no sister, no one. I also realized I never wanted to leave his side. So we got married. Really? Mariella nodded. So you see, social standing and money are all good in their own right, but there's some other things that are worth more in the world. Integrity and character, for instance. Two traits your father has in spades. The door swung open with a creak, and Timuron stepped inside the house. I'm back. Darling! Marielle went over to give him a kiss and take his outer cloak. Welcome back, father. Sevrin took his seat again. Did you find the sheep? A vast majority. Timuron plopped in his seat at the table. You won't believe it. They were all gathered in the center of the valley, surrounded by logs like a corral. I don't know how they got in there. We managed to drive them back to Terranhal's land. Luckily, we saw no sign of the dragon. As a matter of fact, if I hadn't seen the dragon with my own two eyes this morning, I would have thought this story was a hoax dreamed up by sheep rustlers. Terranhal's still missing a sheep or two, so I may ask you to help him tomorrow, Sevrin. You know how he is when it comes to his sheep. He'll want to find every last one. I may have already found them, father. 3 of them were wandering around in the woods, and I discovered an extra one that didn't belong to him. Well done, son. Timuron slapped Severin's back. Terranhal will be pleased when he hears. So, what were you two talking about so earnestly when I walked in? I was telling Sevrin about how you courted me. Mariella set a plate of food in front of him. I never courted you, Mariella. Timuron stuffed some bread in his mouth. Yes, you did, but you didn't realize it at the time. Mariella slipped her arms around his neck. That winter was the most precious time of my life. She kissed his neck. Timuron grunted, a smile tugging at his lips. Sevrin couldn't help but smile at them. They were more in love than most nobles he'd seen. Why were you telling him that story? Timuron asked. Sevrin has found a young lady he wishes to court, Mariella said, taking her seat. Ah, Mum, Sevrin rolled his eyes. I told you, we don't have the means to... And I told you, riches mean nothing to the right girl. It's true, Timuron caressed Mariella's cheek. Money may buy a fancy home, clothes, and all the food you can eat, but it can never buy the respect of a woman who loves you. Oh, my love, Mariella nuzzled Timuron's beard. You should start by talking to her, Sevrin. Find out what sort of person she is. You never know where a conversation will go. Sevrin nodded, but lowered his eyes to the table. Sure, talking to her was good advice, but how could he when he never saw her? Or worse, when he blathered like an idiot whenever he did. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe, click the notification bell, and share this video if you think other people will like these stories. If you want to pick up the book, the link will be in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!